How you doing, everyone? This is Black Socrates. Today I want to talk to you about the criminal reform bill or legislation that's being put through Congress and the Senate very soon that has been recently endorsed by Donald Trump. Now, the bill seeks to change some of the ordinances like mandatory minimums and the three-strike ordinances that was passed during the 90s when Bill Clinton was in office. Now, in particular, what I want to talk about is just the nature of this bill and the way it coincides with the political environment right now in America. In particular, what I want to talk about is the fact that why did it take Donald Trump for a current crime bill or crime reform bill to make headway? Like, you would think that it would be under Obama, right? Like, Obama is a quote unquote black president, and therefore a black president would be interested in reforming crime laws that disproportionately affect minorities or the impoverished. But no, it's in Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump, who's called a fascist, who's called racist, or a racist president. Like, think about this right now. A racist president is seeking to change laws that disproportionately affect black Americans. So these are the kind of quandaries or contradictions that exist in this society, or that's pervaded by legacy media or mainstream media, that should make people's minds explode. But not only that, what I also want to talk about is how this, from my perspective, I'm pretty sure from a lot of people's perspectives, is a complete failure for the Democratic Party. Why? Okay, so you have the Democrat Party, who's always talking about, being for the downtrodden, being for minorities, being for black people, being for, people who are incarcerated, and yet they don't do anything. Like Democrat Party is fundamentally the party of losers, if you really think about it. Now, the reason I say this is, think about all the things the Democrat Party claims that they want to do. Now, compare that to what they accomplished. And what's fascinating is that we're not even talking about on a national level. Like, forget that. This bill by Donald Trump is going to be in a federal level. But what about states that are like wholly Democrat run? Like in New York State, the governor is a Democrat. In New York City, the mayor is a Democrat. Most city councilmen are Democrats. Most of the people in the legislature in Albany are Democrats. Everyone's a Democrat for the most part. The city of New York City is very liberal, very progressive, quote unquote. And yet, black people live in poverty. 1.7 million people live in poverty in New York City. Rikers Island and the court system in New York City is so backlogged that they don't even have time to try people because they're always arresting people. And it only was just recently, like a couple of months ago, that Bill de Blasio said, all right, we're not going to arrest people for marijuana anymore, which goes to show that they could have, ceased making arrests for marijuana a long time ago. All it took was, a memo from the mayor, but they did it anyway. And this should infuriate, especially black people. Like, this should blow their minds, let you recognize the score, what's really going on. The fact of the matter is, the Democrat Party has consistently proven that it doesn't give a rat's behind about black people. And yet, I'm not saying that they should necessarily go to the Republican Party either. But the truth is, like, why have any allegiance to the Democrat Party? Like, you have cities like Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York City, Atlanta, Democrat everything. Black people living horribly. Why our Democrat policies are ineffectual in getting people out of poverty? And yet they make excuses. The excuses is they don't get enough resources. The excuse is racism. And I'm like, if you live in a place like New York City, where is the racism? Who's racist in New York City? Is it the gays? Is it the lesbians? Is it the trans people? Is it the hipsters? Who's the racist people that's keeping quote unquote black people downtrodden in New York City? And yet, nevertheless, black people are still living in poverty and impoverished conditions. You have places like Philadelphia, which is the biggest city and the biggest poorest city in America, where the life expectancy of a lot of black people in the city of Philadelphia is 20 years lower than their white counterparts. Cities Democrat run. And somehow people don't coincide these failing and the abysmal results with the policies and the leadership of the party that these people vote for or is in control. It's almost like having a basketball team that consistently loses all the time, and no one's looking at the coach saying that maybe we need a new coach, maybe we need a new strategy, maybe we need a new just whole entire platform or a change of how we're doing things. And what makes it even worse is when all this is presented and put forth. The counter argument by people on the left is that racism. Like, the reason why the Democrat Party fails to do anything right by black people is because of racism. It's not because they're incompetent. It's not because they're losers. It's not because they don't have any ideas. It's not because they're not realistic or they're probably racist themselves. It's not because of any of that. It's like you live in a place that's predominantly Democrat and somehow Republicans in Kentucky who wear sheets on their heads are affecting you. It's like through magic or something. I don't even know how, but they're affecting you. And it's like, wow, how are you incapable of managing your own city, your own municipality, your own state? Why are your states failing? Why are states like Illinois, where 65,000 government employees make six figures and their budget is so gutted, their pensions are so underfunded that they're likely to be the first state since the Great Depression to file bankruptcy? Like let's be clear. The government can't help you like that. And anyone who tells you that is an asshole. Anyone who tells you that you have a better chance of having a stranger who's in some chamber somewhere in some legislative hall who's going to do something for you to fix your situation, like, you would never believe that in any other instance. You would never believe that. You know, like during the midterms, I said people have friends and family who won't even help them with problems. And yet some stranger who calls themselves a politician is going to save you from your problems. No one's going to save you from your problems. You need to save yourself from your own problems. That's just the reality, you know. And that's why education is so important. I'm not talking about the formal education of public schools. I'm talking about getting knowledge, getting experience, getting practical skills, putting them into use, building, you know, learning strategies, learning entrepreneurship, learning how to make a buck, learning how to make money is more important than a lot of things you would ever learn in school. And I just want people to be very clear, especially black people, that it needs to be drilled home that the Democrat Party does not care about you. You need to care about yourself. You need to care about your family. You need to care about your own community. The only way black Americans are ever going to get better in America is if they do it. No one's going to do it for them, especially Democrats. And what makes, again, the Democrats so bad is that despite their repeated failure, they can't even admit that they're failures. They justify it by saying it's not their fault. So anyone who tells you, who doesn't own up to messing up, you can rest assured that person is not honest. That person don't really care about your interests. Like if I'm supposed to like do a business deal with you and I fail, I'm supposed to tell you that I messed up. You know, I did wrong by you, especially if it's my plan. If I come up with the plan and everything and I fail, obviously it's on me that I did this. So if the Democrat policies work, why are the results so abysmal? It's to the point where who cares what happened in the past 40 years? Look at the way a lot of people in this country are living. So that's my spiel. I'm glad about. I really like these instances when people like Donald Trump does things that goes against the narrative that the media is trying to push. Right? People need to really start thinking independently and analytically. And I think these instances give you an opportunity to start questioning and saying, well, wait, hold on. Why is it a quote unquote fascist, racist Republican doing something for crime reform? What happened to all these Democrats? Also, what's stopping them from doing it in their states? Again, this is on the federal level. The states, Democrats on the states can make crime reform, but they won't. Why? That's a good question. You should ask that question. Why won't they do it? They won't do it because they have to worry about police. They have to worry about COs. They have to worry about, the prisoners, prison guards, and their unions getting paid. Do you know that unions are a big contributor to the Democrat Party? And that includes police unions. So you think COs don't have a union and contribute to Democrats going to talk all this rhetoric about racism while promoting legislation that locks people up? You know who else is a big Democratic block for Democrat Party? Trial lawyers. Can you imagine that? Yes, trial lawyers are 100% Democrat most of the time. And it makes perfect sense, wouldn't it? Think about it. If I was a trial lawyer, how can I not have a job if I continue delay changes in laws? Don't do anything that rocks the boat so that people still get locked up. Come on. All right. Thank you for listening to my little spiel. If you like it, comment, subscribe, share. I'm going to be here tomorrow.